And this is Tampa Home Talk, and you have myself. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, with Keller Williams Realty here for Tampa Home Talk, with my favorite counterpart, Mr. Leo Kane in the house.
With Beryl Engineering and Inspection. Hello, hello. Good morning, good morning.
We're missing Adam Talley this week and next week, but he'll be back.
With every insurance company that decides that they're no longer writing policies in Florida, Adam's got to redo a whole bunch of policies.
Hunker down. Yeah, he must be busy. Is that what he's busy working on today? Did he tell you?
Yeah, he's pretty much busy making sure that his clients have adequate insurance going into 2023.
That's good. There's a reason why he is our partner and our sponsor here on Tampa Home Talk. So
he's busy trying to shave that mustache.
Oh my gosh, that Luigi mustache! I was like, just still taken away from that. I can't get past it.
You should have seen him in full costume, though. We did end
you
up
see him?
going to the show that night. We ended up actually partying in Ybor till it closed.
You're going to have to show me pictures when we get on a break.
Definitely, but he took them all on his phone. But his whole party was dressed up as different characters and stuff. It was.
Were they all like Mario characters or no?
Just the wifey.
Oh. It'd be cool if someone was like Little Mushroom. Remember, there's not a whole lot of characters on there. But.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to think. Someone wants to be Bowser. Someone wants to be Mario. Someone wants to be Luigi. Who wants to be the Koopa Trooper? Or who wants to be the Goomba? No one wants to be the sidekicks.
I don't know what those are, but I'll have to research that.
No one wants to. Okay, so if you could go as any movie character you want, would you be the unnamed sidekick that gets killed off for the villain?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I'll just dress up as redheaded Tinkerbell. It works for me.
I got on my knees and wore a red wig, and I carried 4 sale signs around and dressed up as Katrina.
Oh, aren't you cute, Pat? Aren't you cute?
That would work. Little bandit signs. You gotta wear a mask if you're going to place bandit signs around town.
So, all right. Well, we're going to hop into our numbers this week. Enough fun and chatter for the start of the hour. Our guest this hour is Andrea Taylor and Paula Garcia with Tampa Crossroads. We've got a special Veterans Day edition today, and we're going to talk all about how they house veterans, specifically homeless veterans. So we're going to talk about that. Before we do, let's jump in and finish segment 1 with our number, shall we?
Well, speaking of numbers, remember this Sunday, if you're listening live, or you're watching on the YouTubes this weekend, or you're on the Facebooks, smash like and subscribe.
I already know what you're going to say. Say it.
We're going to set our clocks back an hour on Tuesdays. Now, the best part about this is if you're someone like me that likes to close the bars on a Saturday night, you get 1 extra hour of bar time.
And for people like me that are trying to get back on our gym schedule, that'll be good because it's going to get brighter earlier in the morning.
Does that really make a difference?
For me, it does.
Are we all like birds that when it gets dark out, we fall asleep?
Nobody likes this time change, I'm just saying. And they're talking about getting rid of it. So hopefully the next time we change, that's permanent. That would be good to stay on that one.
I have to remind everyone that Florida has voted not once, but twice. Florida, the people have voted to get away and do away with the hour change.
Who did I see? I think it was Oregon that just made it permanent, or one of those. Anyway.
A lot of states are voting to get rid of it. Yeah. We don't need it.
It's silly. It doesn't make sense.
But they keep arguing over which one do we keep. I don't care. Just get rid of it. I mean, we the people have spoken. Speaking of we the people speaking, I don't care how you vote, but remember to vote on Tuesday. I already voted like 2 weeks ago.
Which is my birthday. It usually falls on Election Day, and this year it does too.
You know what the bad part is of voting early? The debates don't mean anything.
Yeah, if it's too early and by mail, you're right.
I voted by mail. I voted early before the debates.
Is the debate really going to change your mind, or do you already know who you're going to vote for? Did any of the debates actually change your mind on who you voted for?
No.
Okay, then. That's my point.
But right? But I'm not going to say who I voted for.
I didn't ask you to. I just asked if the debate changed your mind on somebody you were going to vote for.
Well, I don't have the ability to watch the debates.
Why?
I don't have regular cable.
You got a friend with cable. Sure.
Yeah. Can I come over to your place to watch 2 people argue? No.
I could totally see you doing that, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm good. All
right.
Numbers?
Yes, those. Here.
Am I getting you all the Klemt over there? So new listings, we have 781. Pretty consistent. Since Ian, we've been pretty consistent. Price decreases are still off the chain. I'm talking like...
Yes, I was thinking the same thing when you said that.
If we're going to make this a relative bar chart, price decreases are going to make this so skewed that every other bar is going to seem small. So we are still seeing lots of price decreases as the market continues to normalize. What I'm loving, new listings and pendings are about neck and neck.
Which is good. That's a stabilization of the market. So that means our absorption rate is creeping up, about 3.5 months right now.
And we've been very consistent. That's what I love the most about this, is the consistency we've had over the past 5 weeks. New listings around 800, pendings around 800, price decreases through the roof. So the
people that want to sell are going to sell.
Yeah, people who want to sell or have reasonable prices are selling. Very stable market. Post Ian, that's great to see. I know there's a lot of contractors moving to Florida. Tampa's a great staging ground to get to Southwest Florida. I know a lot of
anywhere, really. Think about it.
Well, yeah, where Ian hit. I know a lot of my friends down there are still in Southwest Florida. Remember to be safe. Remember to drink plenty of fluids. And if you are listening and you have hurricane damage, remember, ask to see Florida licenses. You want to make sure you're dealing with people that you buy local, stay local. That sort of mentality.
Yeah, totally agree with that. One of the things I want to mention is yesterday the Feds had another 75 basis point hike. I believe this is the fourth 75 basis point hike they had. They started a little smaller.
Now?
Yeah, no.
Where are we at?
No, we're probably, and I tried to reach Sarah to see how that impact was on the market and on the numbers. But if I had to guess right now without looking at the rate chart, I'd say we're high 7s, knocking on 8.
Oh, no. What I was saying is we've gone up 3%. This is the fourth 0.75, so that would be 3%.
Yes, and they had more at the beginning of the year that weren't quite as extreme as 75 basis points.
So we're like at 7 or 8%.
Yeah, we are.
Wow.
The other thing, too, is National Association of Realtors did a survey, which actually came out yesterday. And so the people that this affects the most is this particular survey. That's why I want to mention it. They're saying that according to this new report yesterday, first-time home buyers made up only 26%. And that was ending in June. If you remember, Leo, the market was still pretty strong in June.
It was, because we said July 11th or 18th.
Yeah.
The week of July 11th to the 18th. So July 18th is when we predicted the recession started. We're just waiting for them to call it officially.
Right. And we saw the housing market shift in April because we watch that every week.
We saw the shift in April.
Yeah.
We saw the inflection point in July, though.
So this is literally a 4-decade low percentage in terms of first-time home buyers. Historically speaking, first-time home buyers have been, 30 to 40%. And in 2009, it was as high as 50%.
And the other stat from that article that I found fascinating was the fact that the average age of the first-time home buyer is now 36 years old.
You know why that's moving up, right?
Well, it's harder and harder for young people to save money.
Yep.
And there's also, I'm reading other articles, since we are an LP show here and we talk about financial planning, I'm reading other shows that there are articles about a shift in the way that you're supposed to save for retirement. It used to be you're supposed to take 10% of your money every paycheck and put it towards retirement. Now what they're saying to do is in your 30s, you're going to make more money than in your 20s. And in your 40s, you should be making more money than in your 30s.
Right.
So you should be doing a scale. Because let's say you make $1,000 a week in your 20s and your expenses are $800. You only have $200 of extra income.
Right.
But so if you save 10% of that, you're not putting a lot of money away. Putting $20 away per paycheck.
Well, we're also not factoring in when you start getting in those 20, 30-year age brackets, people also have kids a lot of times in that age bracket. And so it's even harder to save for kids. You got to clothe them, feed them, all their expenses, daycare when they're young. It makes it very, very hard for young families to save.
So the main point of that article, though, is when you're making more money in your 30s or you have that larger gap. Now in your 30s, you're making $3,000. You still only have $1,200 in expenses. Now you have $1,800, not $200 extra. You should be saving more money when you have more money coming in. So maintain a relatively stable standard of living.
Yeah, that's the key to what you just said. That's the
Maintaining,
key. Keeping that payment the same as your income went up. That
Right.
was very subtle the way you said that.
maintaining a steady standard of
Yep.
living. Not saying you can't increase as you make more money, but just relatively steady.
Scale it back.
That way you save more money in your 30s than in your 20s. You save more money in your 40s than your 20s. You come out ahead, and you actually have a better quality of life as you get there.
Well, your 40s and your 50s, historically speaking, are the earning years of your life. So you should be saving more than any other time in your life so that, you can plan for retirement and have a nice little budget.
And that's,
I saw another report that said people making $200,000 are still living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very hard to believe.
and that's why we have record high now of 36-year-olds are the ones that are first-time home buyers.
Yeah, it's sad. I tell my kids, get in there. Even if it's something small, get in there, buy something. You can always refinance later. 813-377-2775. That's our off-air number. If you want to connect with us or any of our guests, just call or text that number, 813-377-2775. We'll be right back.
Welcome home. This is Leo Kane with Beryl Engineering and Inspection, bringing you in for our second segment on this beautiful Friday, the Friday before elections, where your mailbox is being stuffed. Your personal ballot, the mailbox, is being stuffed with propaganda day in and day out. That's my favorite part about election season ending, is I don't get as much mail. That is my favorite part.
You are not kidding. It's like every day. There's so much. Sorry if you guys are watching live on Facebook.
And this is a midterm election as well. That's the amazing part about getting this much mail.
Yeah, can you imagine what it's going to be like in a few years?
And we don't know. We don't know if our maybe governor is going to be maybe running for president. We don't know if our maybe ex-governors.
I would bet money on it. Don't you think? DeSantis? I think he will. He's gotta.
I don't know.
He's gotta. All right. Inspection tip of the week. Do we have one?
Inspection tip of the week is coming next segment.
Oh, next segment. Okay.
Next segment.
We'll hop on over to Andrea Taylor and Paula Garcia. We're so glad you ladies are here.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
And so let's chat a little bit about you guys. We've had you on, but it's been a minute. We were trying to figure out how long it's been, and literally we think it's been, what, 7 years?
7 years.
That's a minute since y'all have been on. So we're going to honor your organization this year here on Tampa Home Talk, and it's a mission of my own, is home ownership, right? And so we definitely don't want to see any of our veterans homeless.
Right.
Would love to talk more about your organization. You guys jump in wherever you feel relevant. Tell me a little bit about your background, how you guys got started, how many veterans you host.
Everything.
What's the plan to get them into, on their own, that sort of stuff.
Okay, so let's start with Tampa Crossroads.
Okay.
Tampa Crossroads, we are a nonprofit agency. We've been around for approximately 45 years. And one of the programs within Tampa Crossroads is our Veterans Assistance Center. Currently, we are operating under the Supportive Services for Veteran Families grant. We are about one of 260 some grantees throughout the United States, Puerto Rico, and U.S. Virgin Islands, all trying to end veteran homelessness.
So that's what that grant is specifically for?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do they do that? Is it just temporary housing? Do they put any of that towards down payment assistance for veterans that want to buy? Like, how does that work?
Great question. It's a great question. So the grant started under former President Obama's administration with the goal of ending veteran homelessness. Our grant, we can provide referrals, which Paula, as a case manager, is great at doing referrals, but it's primarily to provide that short-term financial assistance to get veterans into permanent housing, rental, not own.
So when you say short-term, that's like living on campus with you guys, I think, right?
Well, no, we don't have residential programs.
Okay.
So we can provide short-term financial assistance like security deposits.
So wherever they're living or helping them getting into a place?
Right. First step is we would help them find that place.
Okay.
And in this market, it's very difficult.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Especially if a lot of our veterans have zero income.
Yeah.
Some of them lower, like $900 to $1,000 a month.
Not to interrupt you, but I just want to chime in on this really quick. City of Tampa had a council hearing or a meeting about people, like especially like around that Seminole Heights and that inner city Tampa area. Did you see that, turning the garages into apartments?
Yes.
And so they were getting some pushback saying no, they didn't want people to Airbnb them. But I think the city needs that for exactly what you just said.
Right, exactly. But again, if you're looking at the Seminole Heights area, what price market are they going to rent them out at?
Right.
Because if we have some of our veterans who are experiencing homelessness, $900, $1,000 a month in income, but if you're going to rent out your garage at $1,800 a month, you're still pricing out those that are experiencing homelessness.
I don't do any property management, so I don't see a ton of the rental side of it. So is that really what you guys are seeing? $1,800 for a 1-bedroom?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much.
It's insane right now. I mean,
So where are you putting these guys? Like, what, are they living together? Like, do you have an apartment with 3 veterans together, or like how is that working?
well, so our grant, great question. Our grant is specific to Hillsborough County. So we can go as far north, south, east, and west as long as it's within
It's a big
Hillsborough
county, so that's good.
Exactly. So, and it is Veterans Choice. Right now, one of the biggest pushes that we've seen over the past 5 years is what's called shared housing. So if we have a first-time homeowner, or maybe somebody who is buying investment property, if they have a 3 or 4 bedroom house, and instead of selling it and flipping it, renting it out, so that each individual has their own private bedroom, and they share the common areas like the kitchen, living room, laundry room, and all that. It is a lot more cost effective because usually the tenants will pay $600, $800 a month, all utilities included, versus a $1,400, $1,800 apartment.
Well, we're going to see a lot of that. I mean, we
Yes.
talk a lot on this show about multi-gen housing, right, Leo? Like, how many times have we talked about, like, your firm seeing the design element of that, right, where people are lit, like you have parents and adult children, sometimes still with younger children in the house that are living together. They're buying a little bit bigger home, building a little bit bigger home, and building this multi-gen type compound where they can combine housing expenses and live together.
And that is right now the biggest factor in us reducing veteran homelessness right now is the shared housing concept.
Now, how receptive are the veterans to this?
Some of them, I'm going to let Paula chime in. Some of them they need a little bit of persuasion.
Right. So usually when we're helping with housing, they're set up with the housing specialist as well and a case manager. So they have a team of 2 working with them. Of course, it's their choice at that time when it comes to housing. But if we see that, there's a lot of barriers, evictions, credit score, anything like that is preventing them from getting housing, we do try to chime in and talk to them about share housing. I know some of them would like their own home, their own space.
Yes.
But
give me an example of where they're coming from. So someone comes to you guys for help. You're trying to talk them into shared housing because that really is their only option based on income in the current market and what the rent prices are. What's their living situation before they come to you?
Any number
Like,
of
I'm sure
reasons.
you're thinking of some people in your head. So the last couple that you had, what was their situation?
So usually when people, and when I give talks, I usually tell people close your eyes and imagine a homeless individual. And usually it's visually this gentleman, 20s, 30s, beard, scruffy clothes.
That looks like my husband right now.
That's who they envision as being homeless.
Wait, your husband's a 20-year-old?
No, but he looks like he's
Scruffy
homeless
beard.
with a beard. Yeah.
And I have them say that's a great visualization, but that's not real. We have families. It seems like that's more and more where we're getting families that are literally living in their car
Right.
with 3 and 4 children.
Now, what is that about? Is that because the lease is up and they either want to increase the rate to something that's not affordable, or they're selling the home?
It's usually what we're seeing is because their rents have gone up $300-$400 and that veteran can no longer afford it. Or what we see sometimes too is they come down to Florida for the promise of a job, and then they get down here and that job is fallen through.
So and they have no place to live, no
Exactly.
job, no nothing.
Right.
Exactly. So there's no one reason that causes homelessness among the veteran population.
And then we've seen historically it's a snowball effect. Once you are on the path to homelessness and you've lost your job, you can't get a new one. You don't have a home. You can't put
Exactly.
that on an application. So it's really crippling to an individual once they're on that path of homelessness to get out of it.
And
That makes sense. I didn't even think about that, Leo. But
And that's one of the reasons we follow the housing first approach, which has been around for several years, because the old way of thinking was if somebody is experiencing homelessness, get them to kind of clean up their act first, right? Get them a job, get them to overcome substance abuse, mental health first, and then we'll get you into housing.
Right.
Well, thankfully, somebody grew up and evolved and understood that that's not right. You've got to have your own place over your head
Yeah.
in order to successfully get employed, in order to overcome substance abuse. Because if you are experiencing substance abuse, that's kind of hard to overcome it if you're hanging out in the park where
Because you don't have a place to go.
where 50 other people are, doing drugs.
That makes sense. Complete sense to me.
I've read other studies too that with the amount of money that it takes to care for the homeless on the streets, they could actually put homeless people in low-income housing cheaper. I've read those studies as well. So we're actually spending more money by not putting a roof over their head and not allowing these people to clean up
So
indoors.
where's the money going? Like in those reports you read? Where's it
It's
being
going to
spent?
healthcare, it's going to social services, it's going to police, it's going to all of these ancillary services, and it far exceeds, because you've got a homeless person that commits a crime just to get food.
Got it.
They're in jail, and that's all that system is now revolved
Well,
around
it's taking
that.
care of housing and food. I mean, think about it. If it's a basic human necessity. So that makes sense. Makes complete sense. This is Tampa Home Talk. Our author number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text if you have a question. We're going to get into a little bit more about what Tampa Crossroads does. 813-377-2775 if you know a veteran or somebody that needs help like this, or a family. Just like Andrea mentioned, call or text and we'll get you guys connected. 813-377-2775. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, and Leo King will be back with your engineering or insurance.
No,
not
engineering.
Engineering or
I have perfect
inspection
one. See,
tip of the week.
How to let this segment happen so I can formulate the perfect one. And it'll be about multi-generational upgrades to your
I
home.
love it. All right, so stick around if that's you, or it might be you, because you might enjoy this tip of the week when we come back. This is Tampa Home Talk. Stick around.
Welcome home, Leo Kane here with your tip of the week from Beryl Engineering and Inspection. So earlier we were talking about multi-generational housing, or the fact that children out of college are moving back in, or your loved elderly ones are moving back in.
Boomerang kids, boomerang generation.
But if you think about it, we're just moving back to, we're moving back in time 100 years, where multi-generational housing was just the norm.
Still very big in Europe and other places like that.
I know. So what's going to keep multi-generational housing a hindrance here, where in Europe it's more acceptable? In Europe, every bedroom has its own bathroom.
Yes.
The bedrooms are smaller and each one has its own bathroom.
That's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. So what we have to start thinking about here in the United States is, when we're doing our renovations, moving in that direction. Smaller bedrooms, but each one has a bathroom. The Jack and Jill bathroom is a good approach, because now you have 2 bedrooms with 1 bathroom, but oftentimes that's the guest bathroom too. So now you have 3 different rooms of the house using 1 bathroom.
You know what I've seen too, Leo, that works out really well when you're talking about that Jack and Jill bathroom? I've seen this in a house we sold not too long ago. So it has the 2, like the bathrooms in the middle, shared by 2 bedrooms, but the first thing you see on each side is a toilet. So there's 2 toilets, 1 on each side, shared sink and a shower area in the middle.
Yeah, no, that is solid. That's what I'm seeing.
The extra toilet is really the biggest thing, isn't it?
Extra toilet, a dual sink. I'm seeing a lot of bathrooms that have both a shower and a tub. You don't need both.
No.
You can do, if multi-generational, you can do more of a stand-up shower. That's a smaller footprint. Give it a bench so they can sit down. So these are different techniques that you can have smaller bedrooms, and you can put bathrooms inside of these smaller bedrooms, because the size of our bedrooms are like average 12-12 or 13-13. The average bedroom only needs to be 9 by 9. You don't need a king-size bed. Your queen-size bed is really the biggest bed you should be thinking about putting in these rooms. Full-size beds are good, especially if you know it's for multi-generational, if it's your child coming back, or if it's an elderly person. A full-size bed should be what you're targeting.
But if you have 2 people, you might want a bigger room.
Well,
right?
if you have 2 people, then you can do the queen-size bed. Right. But still, the bedroom...
I don't know, Leo. I went to a king for my husband, and I'm never going back. I'm never sleeping in a queen-size bed with him again, not permanently.
Well, if you're having 2 or 3 extra people move into your house,
yeah,
and you've got to start thinking about reconfiguration, you have to start thinking more European. You have to start thinking about the smaller footprint model to increase the amount of bedrooms, increase the amount of bathrooms, and by increasing the amount of bedrooms and bathrooms in your house, what are you doing for you, Katrina?
Well,
You're making them easier to sell.
Yes, and typically and historically speaking, these ensuite type bedroom bathroom things that you're talking about, where every room has its own bathroom and there's, say, another half bath in the common areas, those are typically a lot bigger, like, type property. So they're over 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. So it's a little bit different than,
We're doing designs now on these 2,500 and under homes.
And how many bedrooms and bath? 3?
We're turning them into 3s. We're taking 2-1s, making them 3-2s, and we're doing that without the costly part of adding square footage to the house. I mean, it's easy to add square footage to a house. It's just expensive. But we're talking about taking the initial internal configuration, making the bedrooms more reasonably sized, shrinking a little bit on the living room, and adding bedrooms and bathrooms to these houses. Because if your bedroom's a place to sleep, get ready, but your living room, your family room, those are the areas to live in.
To add the space.
Those are the places you want to sit down, read your book, relax in the open setting. It's people don't fully utilize their rooms the way they should be doing them. They want to put all this in the bedroom. And that's why our bedrooms have gotten so big.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And certainly with what you're talking about, the redesign and stuff, that would work out perfectly for a lot of these veterans. So, I mean, think about it. A lot of them, you're lucky to get a 3-2, but if you had a 3-3 with its own ensuite and, say, another half bathroom for common use, that would be perfect.
And that is probably one of the biggest opposition to shared housing is having to share a bathroom.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, Leo, you're redesigning this sort of stuff. That'd be a great connection for you guys because, if you're doing a lot of this redesign on multi-gen housing, it's exactly what you guys are looking for. And you're saying the biggest need is actually convincing private homeowners to do this.
Private property owners, we need a lot of private property owners that are willing to rent out their homes to 2, 3, depending on how many bedrooms, for veterans. Each veteran would have their own lease. Each veteran is case managed so that you have that private property owner has the support of a case manager like Paula.
So how would that come into play? If I'm a private property owner, I'm listening to this, I'm considering renting my house out to 3 different veterans, right? Tampa Crossroads is not guaranteeing it, but you're setting them up for success, maybe helping with a deposit. How does that work if one of those veterans, say, are not paying their rent now? How do you guys step in as a case manager to help, or are you trying to counsel them on why they missed? And
We do a lot of counseling. If we need to sit down and have a sit rep, like a meeting to see what is going on, what are the barriers or the concerns at this point in time, so we can make it better and continue. So we don't lose this connection we have with these private landlords. So we sit down with the vet and we see what's going on, what are the barriers, and what can be done to change that.
Got it. How many private people do you guys work with now where you place veterans, and how great is the need? How many other families or homes could you guys use right now?
Right now, I want to say on the high end, we may have 10 private landlords. On the low end, 10 private landlords. We could use 3 times that.
Wow.
Because we have, yes, the numbers of veterans experiencing homelessness is decreasing, but when you have 120 right now, single veterans on our caseload, if we have 120, that's 120 individuals or bedrooms that we need right now.
How many are individuals as opposed to families in your group?
How many families do you have on your caseload, Paula?
I have the majority of them. I have about 5 or 6 with more than 2 kids. Single mom.
We are seeing an increase in families.
We are.
Are they in temporary housing now?
What we'll do
Ideally,
is, and this is where it comes into financial assistance, our grant will allow us to pay short-term for what we call emergency housing assistance, i.e. hotel.
Okay.
So if we get a family, right now we have a family of 6, for example, in a hotel, but that's 2 hotel rooms that we're paying. And if that family is in a hotel room for a month while we try and find housing, we could have paid their security deposit 4 times over and their monthly rent for what it's costing us for a hotel. So again, it goes back to those private property owners for either shared housing or a single family unit. We are in desperate need of private property owners.
What's the biggest need for these homeless veterans as opposed to obviously the property. What are the gaps you're trying to fill or help them with outside of housing?
Most of the time is employment assistance, child care. I have on my caseload a lot of mothers that can't go to work because they need child care. So we help with child care assistance, employment assistance.
Do you ever get shared housing where, like, say, one works nights, one work days, and they take turns with the kids? That would be perfect.
Well, we don't have with families because usually with the shared housing, it's single individuals.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
Yes, so we do help with a lot of resources, referrals when it comes to that. Just any bus passes, transportation assistance as well. I set up a lot of my vets to with a VA rideshare where they can get transportation to their jobs. Some bus lines, they don't run as early as 3, 4 in the morning. So I set up for the whole week. So they're able to get to and from work. So they continue to have income and they're able to be self-sufficient.
Sure.
And once they're housed, they're able to pay for their home as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was looking at some of your percentage here that we had on the outline. It says HUD estimates that there's a sharp decline in veterans experiencing homelessness over the last 10 years, but it's still nearly 43% since 2011.
There was an article that came out yesterday from the VA that since 2020, because every year there's a point in time count.
Right.
Where we go out and we literally try and count those that are experiencing homelessness, not just veterans, but anyone.
Literally,
right?
like on the street, you're counting. Okay.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And in shelters and, everywhere, wherever individuals experiencing homelessness are at, we actually go out. There are teams that go out and count. So from 2020 to the last count, January of 2022, there has been an 11% decrease in veterans experiencing homelessness nationwide. That's huge. And then when you look at since 2010, a decline of 55%. So we are doing the work, but we still need to continue getting, because you think about what took place between 2020 and 2022.
Yeah.
COVID, a pandemic,
yeah.
housing, rental rates skyrocketed, but yet we were still able to still place veterans experiencing homelessness in housing to positively affect that number. So we're getting the work done. We just need a greater impact of it.
How else did COVID impact your organization and your veterans, other than the obvious, right, with increased rental cost and that sort of stuff?
As Paula mentioned, employment. That was one of probably the biggest impacts of COVID, employment, housing, obviously, because right at the height of the pandemic, the main direction from the VA is to find veterans that are experiencing homelessness, get them off the street so that they are not vulnerable to the pandemic, right? So we had a big surge of placing veterans in hotels to keep them safe. And, because you've got the pandemic, you don't want them out there on the streets in the parking, parks or what have you. So that was the biggest impact that we saw.
So the other thing, too, it was talking about, this was interesting, the average homeless veteran is much younger than the average homeless person in general who didn't serve. So they're saying 40% of these guys are 31 to 51 years old.
Yes, exactly.
That's surprising.
It is, but we'll still see, what surprises me are the veterans on the other end. So we're seeing still, it doesn't happen often, but we'll see veterans, like last year we had a veteran that served in the Korean War.
Wow.
Yeah,
How old was he? 60s?
80s.
Oh,
that
wow.
was experiencing homelessness.
I got my timeline off a little bit in my head.
And that just blows me away. It's like, you served in the Korean War and you're experiencing homelessness. So there is no formula for who experiences homelessness at all.
It's interesting. I was talking to a gentleman that was trying to avoid foreclosure, and I believe he was a veteran as well. And part of the challenge is he needed to make a little bit more money in order to get the modification from the bank to stay in his home.
Okay.
So it's not just, it's like some of these people are homeowners as well. And you think about what's going to happen, to this guy. So it might be a match for your single individuals to rent out a room. I don't know, but certainly worth consideration.
And one of the things that we're seeing now is that increase of veterans that can no longer afford their rent increase. Rents
Yeah.
went up. So at the end of their lease, now their rent has gone up $300-400 a month,
They've got
and
to
they
vacate.
cannot afford that. And that's where we're seeing the surge in families. I think
Yeah.
is because they can no longer afford the rent.
Yeah, this is Tampa Home Talk. It's a interesting topic we have going on this morning. But if you or someone you know needs some help with this, please call or text us at 813-377-2775. We're happy to get you connected and help any way we can. 813-377-2775. This is Tampa Home Talk. Stick around. We will be right back.
Welcome home. This is Tampa Home Talk, your LP provider, and we are
LP provider.
licensed professionals,
Oh, all right.
aren't we?
That's new.
Aren't we?
Haven't heard that one before.
I said it 3 times this hour.
You did? I must have missed it
don't
all
know.
3 times.
My marketing people are talking about branding. We're going to have table runners in the future.
Oh my
We're stepping
goodness.
on up.
You and the table runners.
We've been
like
doing
every
this
week.
for 7 years. We've got to step it up.
Well, it's been 9, knocking on 10.
We've been
for
doing
me.
this almost 10 years. We've got to step it up.
Next year, we're going to have a radio party. I'm looking forward to it.
That'll be awesome.
I know.
We'll sit in the booth from the background, and people will be below us.
We'll schedule it in advance to make sure you and Adam can come.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, I missed the. How was the Halloween party here a couple of weeks ago?
It was fantastic, our fall festival. And by the way, I brought pumpkins back for you and Adam and forgot to give them to you.
Are they still here?
Yeah.
Can I take one with me today?
Yes.
Yes.
sure can.
I will carve and make roasted seeds with that sometime in the near future.
I bake amazing pumpkin pie and bread. Have you ever had it? I don't think you have.
Wait, you use
you have it?
carving pumpkins for pumpkin pie?
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
you used pie pumpkins for pumpkin pie.
That's a myth. You can totally use the big pumpkins for pumpkin pie. and
Aren't
bread.
they just not as sweet? You have to add more sugar? More
No,
butter?
it's the same all the time. Same thing. I don't think it's true.
So what's the difference between a carving pumpkin and a pie pumpkin besides the pie pumpkins look smaller?
That's it. They just haven't grown larger. That's it.
The pulp doesn't taste any less sweet?
Nope, I don't think so. I always use the bigger ones, always.
So it's just marketing. It's just been, we've been marketing.
That's how they sell the little ones. Think about it. Who wants to buy a baby jack-o'-lantern?
Oh.
They just snowed you. You missed it.
Well, I'm going to make pumpkin pie then with the pumpkin I'm going to carve from this show.
Okay, you do that. We'll have a pumpkin pie contest. Yeah? I'll win. I'll win.
I'm not proud to pumpkin, so
I can tell you some tips and tricks if you want to do it.
Oh.
Do you want to know what the tip?
I made a cheesecake last night.
Ooh. And you didn't bring any in today?
It's a baked cheesecake. It was for an event.
So, how do you imagine you make pumpkin? Like you take the pumpkin home.
Yeah, you take the pumpkin home.
You're gonna make pumpkin pie. Where are you gonna start?
Well, I'm going to start by taking the top off the pumpkin,
Uh-huh.
putting the egg beater in and swirling it around,
Uh-huh.
scooping out all the luscious seeds, putting those seeds in a big 5-quart thing of water.
Okay. And then what? How are you gonna?
Then to separate the pulp from the seeds, and then we take the pulp and give it to the chickens. That's how I'm going to start.
The chickens probably love the pulp, don't they? Yeah. Oh wow.
Yes.
All right. So then what? Tell me how are you gonna cook down the meat to make a pie?
I'm going to use my phablet to get some tips and tricks.
I know, but where would you start?
Well, I would start by taking the shell off the meat.
Nope. There's a better way.
Oh, this is the gourd method where you can cook the pumpkin in the oven and then the meat comes right off the bone. Yeah.
Cut it in half.
Yep. put
Bake
it in
2 halves.
half.
Put a pie sheet under it. Bake it down. When the outside looks like a deflated basketball, it's ready to go.
Yep, you can just peel the skin right off. I forgot about that. That's what we typically do with our gourds and squashes.
Way better. And puree it. Puree it. Do you eat the gourds? Squash, I know you eat, but do you eat
Yeah, we
gourd?
eat gourd, squash, like the eating ones, like
they-
the green ones. Cut them in half, plus them. Yeah, we
Do they taste like squash?
Yeah.
Or like zucchini?
Well, they all taste relatively the same once you put the oil and the salt on them.
I guess, yeah.
Yes.
We had a porcelain pumpkin, if you remember one year, like a couple years ago.
The white ones.
It was like pink. The porcelain pumpkin, it was so sweet. It was like in the squash butternut pumpkin family. It was interesting.
I didn't know there were
And
pink.
I know I'd never heard, it's called a porcelain pumpkin. The
Interesting.
ones that look a little pink, they're not so orange.
So in Dallas, here's some trivia for you. In Dallas, at their arboretum, every year they do their pumpkin festival, and they will have like thousands of different types and varietals of pumpkins on display. So if you are curious about your different types of pumpkins, the different colors they come in, the shapes, the sizes, you do want to check out the Dallas-Fort Worth Arboretum.
Did you guys go see that? Was that what you were checking out when you went to Dallas?
I've been there probably twice in the last 10 years.
Is it early October or when is it?
It's usually in October. I think it might actually bleed over into November because, really pumpkin season lasts up through Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Some of the pumpkins we had at our house stored inside because, we make pie and bread for an extended period of time. And those things lasted till like January.
They would.
They lasted so long, maybe even longer. They were in there for so long.
Chickens
so
love
long.
them, though. If you have backyard chickens and you cut it in half and throw it in there, you will have just shell left.
Wow.
They will peck it to make glorious eggs.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So this morning, if you're just popping in with us, we have Andrea Taylor and Paula Garcia. They're here in the studio with us from Tampa Crossroads. We're talking all about, their mission to support and serve veterans and families here in the Tampa Bay area. And we talked a lot about the rising cost being a problem, for these veterans. Other than the rising housing cost, right, where people literally have to move out because the rent goes up $300-$400, is there any other issues at play that you guys see?
One of the other things that is always in need that our grant cannot provide is gasoline.
Oh, really?
So we cannot provide gas cards or gasoline.
That makes sense.
We cannot provide food. So if I'll have smaller nonprofit agencies call and say, what can we do to help? And I said, donate gift cards. That is a huge...
For grocery stores or gasoline.
Huge benefit. And, go to Walmart, purchase gift cards, because then they can purchase food and household items if they have little ones or what have you. Some Walmarts actually have the gas stations in front of them as well. Wawa gift cards is another one that's big because they can get the gasoline and they can go in and get a meal as well. So in addition to the biggest need, obviously, is for housing, but on the everyday needs, it's going to be those gift cards to Walmart, Wawa, places like that, because our grant, we cannot provide those items.
So as we're getting closer to the holidays, right, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, other than gift cards, do you guys partner with any other organizations to help these guys, or like?
Occasionally, we'll have an organization reach out to us for food bags, but that's really about it. So we rely heavily on whatever the community is doing.
Sure, that makes sense. Makes total sense. How big is your organization? How many people are there?
Within our program, we are almost at 20, a staff of almost 20.
So 20 people, wow.
Within just our program, because Tampa Crossroads has other programs. So, yeah.
What I know about the Veterans Homeless one. What are the other ones you guys do?
We have our behavioral wellness, which is our non-residential program, and they provide drug testing and individual and group counseling for individuals with substance abuse. Going through substance abuse. Then we have our career center for individuals that have a physical diagnosis or mental health diagnosis that are seeking employment.
Got it.
Then we have our residential treatment program, Rose Manors, for females that have generally been court ordered because of substance abuse and need that residential treatment.
Is this all veterans, or is it other people as well? Okay.
We are the only veteran-specific program within Tampa Crossroads.
Got it. Awesome. Well, we're so glad you guys are here. I'm glad we could honor your veterans and try to help them in any way.
Absolutely.
And we're delighted to have you here on Tampa Home Talk today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So please reach out, support Tampa Crossroads any way you can. If you have some of these gift cards, we'll be happy to take them and get them over to Tampa Crossroads. Call or text 813-377-2775. That's our off-air number, 813-377-2775. Love where you live, or we'll fix it. Welcome home.
Love where you live or not?